It's interesting. Judy, you could be a potential recipient of Gonzalez's kidney if he were actually allowed to donate. I mean, do you think that it could actually happen, Judy?
I mean, I would be nice if it could. It's a very rare blood type. I think less than 10% of the people in the U.S. have a type B blood type. So God works in mysterious ways. That would be awesome if it did.
Yeah, I mean, tell me, it sounds like that blood type you happen to be it is very, very difficult. Does that make it the wait a lot longer to get a kidney?
The last thing that I saw said it's up to 6 years wait. So other kidney types are 3 to 4 years.
And you are on dialysis. I know how difficult that is. Talk about how it would change your life if you could get the kidney.
So the type of dialysis that I do, I have to do 4 times a day. I do it myself. I do it at home. I do it at work. So I'm on a pretty short tether. I'm not allowed to swim. I have dietary issues. So getting a kidney transplant, I could take my grandkids camping. I could take them swimming. You know, it's a lot of freedom for me.
You know, talking to you, Judy, and hearing your personal story, I mean, a lot of people have different opinions about this, but it's hard to imagine why this would be a bad idea, especially if it could help someone like you.
It's very rare to find somebody that wants to do a live donation in the first place. It's very brave, you know. I think it would be a shame if Mr. Gonzalez wants to do that and he's not allowed to.
Well, according to the National Kidney Foundation, 13 people a day die waiting for life-saving kidney transplants, but still some say the ethics of prisoner organ donation is tricky. As we were discussing, I want to bring in now Robert Dunham, the executive director of the Death Penalty Information Center. Robert, some have been concerned that prisoners requesting to donate their organs might end up just being a tactic to sort of delay the execution.
Well, Brian, I think that history shows that that's just not true. Organ donation and the death penalty in the modern era have actually gone hand in hand. The first person executed in the United States after the death penalty came back in the 1970s, Gary Gilmore, actually was an organ donor. The question has come up in the context, though, of whether this is something that prisoners suggest as a way of trying to delay their execution. I think if it were a stalling tactic, we'd see it much more frequently, but it's not. These are genuine acts. And, you know, people don't volunteer to undergo surgery as a way of delaying being executed. That's just not something that they do. I think that the issue kind of underscores our conflicting views of humanity. The people who think it's just delay tend to think of death row prisoners as these monsters, not having humanity, not being in a position of saying, I want to give something back. I want to make amends somehow. And also, our moral calculus gets distorted by the fact that somebody is on death row. We assume they're guilty. We assume they're going to be executed. The most likely outcome of a capital case, though, is that you're not executed, is that your conviction or death sentence gets overturned and you don't get resentenced to death. And there actually was a case in Florida, a gentleman who was sentenced to death in 1974, Joe Brown, and his brother was dying of a kidney disorder, and he volunteered to give his kidney. The Florida Department of Corrections said no, and his brother died. Years later, Mr. Brown was exonerated.
So what's the reason they say no, Robert? I mean, what's the reasoning they give?
Well, each of these states have different policies. And sometimes it's a question of security, and certainly there are extra security measures that you need to take if you are taking a death row prisoner out of the prison to a special facility, a medical facility, to carry out the executions. But as far as we're aware here, Mr. Gonzalez meets all the qualifications for a donor under Texas's policy. So it's more a question of the state's intransigence than it is of any real practical problems.
Has it ever been successful before? Has this ever happened?
Yes. And in the 1990s, there was a case of two brothers who were on death row in Delaware who had a mother who also had a kidney disorder, the Sheltons. And the first of the brothers was not a match and was executed. The second brother actually was able to donate his kidney. Delaware initially said no, and Mr. Shelton said, "I'm going to sue you." At that point, they relented. And again, as I said earlier, people who are on death row don't necessarily get executed. Mr. Shelton's death sentence was actually later overturned on other grounds.
Wow, interesting. Cantor Zoosman, I've heard some people say, you know, it's a kind of a strange way to look at it, but there are some who believe that this is sort of exploiting the prisoners in a way. What do you make of that? I mean, is there anything to it?
I've heard that argument, and I really, in my experience with Ramiro, and ultimately that's what I can only speak to, is my experience with Ramiro. This comes from a sincere place. This is not even something that Ramiro wanted to be public at all. We wouldn't be talking about this at all if Texas had allowed him to do it before they executed him.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.